Hey guys, welcome back. First, I want to say thanks to all my 18 subscribers. Um, Sorry for the delay. I got a newborn at home now, and those of you with kids will understand that. So there's some long nights and a lot of times taken up with that. So anyhow, I'm going to get into it. Last video I talked about the 12-mile ruck march for during Wrap Week. So this week I want to talk about the 5-mile run. I had one person comment asking about the 5-mile and how they can improve that. So I want to address that, and then I'm going to kind of continue on through Wrap Week and try to address all the major critical events through Wrap Week. So let's get into it. First and foremost, the 5-mile run. How do you prepare for? How do you ensure that you are successful at the 5-mile run? The first thing I want to say is just with anything, if you want to get better at something, you have to prioritize that. So what I mean by that is if you think you're going to just continue doing your lifting routine that you've been doing, your back and bis and chest and tries and legs here, and then you're just going to sprinkle in a little bit of running here and there, and that'll help. I'll get better. You're wrong. You're not going to. If you want to get better at running, you have got to run, right? There's no alternative. There's no, well, if I squat 455 pounds one time, my legs are super strong, so I'll be a really good runner then. That doesn't work that way. You have to run to get better at running. Your body has to become more efficient at that process. So that works across the board. Maybe there's some genetic mutants out there that, they can have these absolute massive 1-rep maxes and they can run like the wind. But I would say for the average person, it doesn't work that way. You have to prioritize what you want to do and get better. That's not to say you can't get better in all aspects. That's not to say you can't lift and get better and run and still get better at running, but you have to make those priorities. You can't just focus on lifting and then make running an afterthought, and you're like, oh yeah, I should probably run today, I haven't ran in 3 weeks, and think that you're going to get better. So I just want to say that from the get-go. Okay, the next thing I want to say is what I'm about to tell you for the running plan. Just understand this is what I did. It worked for me. It may or may not work for you. So we'll jump into it. A key thing that I did is I'm a huge fan of Mountain Tactical Institute. They have a pre-ranger workout plan. If you buy the full package, it's 42 weeks long. So it's if you know that you've got plenty of time to train up for it. It was an awesome plan. I did it. If I'm being honest, it's pretty boring. You do the same 7 things for 42 weeks. But it is effective. It works. It costs money. I mean, I don't remember what the plans cost. I paid for it. But if you don't want to, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what that run improvement looked like throughout the 42 weeks. And to be honest, really, it was really only the last 12 weeks that they focused on the run a whole bunch. You ran throughout, but the run really only became a focus in the last 12 weeks. So what that kind of looked like for me was a minimum of running 3 times a week. So I was running at least 3 times a week. One of those days was kind of a pacing workout day. So, if you're trying to run 8-minute miles, for example, where you want to do your 5 miles in 8 minutes or less, so your pace is 8-minute miles, it would look like, hey, 4 2-mile runs at an 8-minute pace, or, and we'll talk a little more on it, but I want to cover all 3. So there's a pace day, a sprint day, And then you've got more kind of like your long run endurance day. So we'll talk the pace day first. Pace day, I already alluded to it. You establish a goal pace, and that's primarily done by first figuring out what your best pace is. So you would like go out, you'd run your 5 miles or 4 miles, whatever your assessment is. And for this one at Ranger School is 5 miles. So you'd go out, you'd run your 5 miles. Let's say you came in at 45 minutes, right? So let's do 44 for, not 45 will work. That's 9-minute miles. So you came in at 5 minutes or 45 minutes. That's 9-minute miles. You need to shave 5 minutes off of that, right? To get down to 8 minutes. Well, you're not going to do that instantly. You know, like you're not going to be like, oh, well, I ran a 5 mile in 45 minutes, so I can run an 8-minute pace. So the best way to do that is to break it down in chunks, and especially if you've got time. So if you've got time leading up to the event, you know, you've got 20, 30, 40 weeks leading into Ranger School, then you've got time to kind of build up. But if you don't have time, you're going to have to be more aggressive. That's just all there is to it. You got to dig deep, find the motivation, and push through the pain. But so we'll stick with that 45-minute pace. That's a 9-minute pace. So we'll say like you're going to run on, like for me, example, I ran Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. So Tuesdays was my pace run. So on Tuesday, we'll just say I ran the 45 minutes, right? So my pace at that time, the 5 mile was 9, but you're going to run shorter chunks so you'll be able to push the pace a little better. So we'll say, okay, I'm going to run 4 2 miles, right? With a 5-minute break in between. So you'll run 2 miles at the target goal pace. And we'll just say, even being aggressive, 8:30, 8:15 would be an aggressive push from your 5 mile pace time. So we're going to run 2 miles at 8:30, and then we're going to wait 5 minutes. And then we're going to run 2 more miles at 8:30. This should be like, this pace that you're trying to run, that you're trying to establish for yourself, should be a push. Like it should be uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable to the point where you're like blacking out. You know, we've all been in the military, hopefully long enough. You've seen people push themselves on the run. You know, most of the time the guys that are like collapsing at the end, they're not the guys finishing in 10, 11, 12 minutes. Those are the guys that are like scraping by the line at 22 minutes, but they've pushed themselves really, really hard and they're like about to collapse. So we don't want that pace, but we also don't want you to be able to talk, you know, during it. So if that's kind of a good metric for you, is if you feel like you can have a conversation while you're doing your run, it's too slow. If you feel like you're about to collapse, it's too fast. So like somewhere in that happy medium there, and just know the harder you push yourself, the better you're going to get, the faster you're going to get. So we'll do a 2 mile at that 8:30 pace, wait 5 minutes, another 2 mile, wait 5 minutes, and we're going to do that 4 times. So you'll run a total of 8 miles on that day, but it's going to be broken up. Okay, then you can, you know, do your weight training like I said. So for me, I ran Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So that means Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. I was actually training 7 days a week, which we can get into another time, but you know, it's probably not a bad idea. The idea behind going to Ranger School is that you're kind of bulletproof. Like you want to be durable when you go there. So why not train 7 days a week to like make yourself durable, and then you can taper off as you get closer. But so we ran Tuesday, we ran our paces. Wednesday, we're going to do our weight training. Thursday, we're going to get back out there and we're going to hit the pavement. Today, we're going to do sprints. So what we're looking here, everything should be pace-based. If you're trying to improve your run and you're just kind of going out there and winging it and you're just running without really thinking about your paces, you're probably wrong, because you have no metric to judge how much better you're getting, right? So everything should be pace-based. No different on the sprinting days. Go to your local high school. They've got a track. It's really easy. They're 400 meters typically. That helps you to kind of judge your pace. One moment, I need some coffee. So, pace day, right? That's going to be our Thursday run day, or our sprint day, not pace day, sorry. Sprint day. That's going to look something like when you first start, probably 400s would be like pushing yourself absolute insanity level for sprinting. Kind of where I would start with is I'd do like a 100-meter sprint, 100-meter sprint, 200-meter sprint, 200-meter sprint, 400-meter sprint, which is a quarter mile, so that's quite a sprint. And then I'd probably do one more 200 and then two more 100s, right? So I'm like running up, kind of peaking, and then coming back down. And that's going to help you to work on your paces. So before you start, you want to figure out paces. So again, let's go back to that. I ran a 45-minute 5 mile. I want to run a 40-minute. Now, the sprinting is kind of where we set our pace for where we want to be. So that's kind of the way I do it is, okay, so I want to run a 40-minute 5 mile. So if you break that down and you're like, okay, 40-minute 5 mile is 8-minute miles, which puts me at a 4-minute half mile, a 2-minute quarter mile. So that 400, my goal for that 400 is to and I want to go sub pace on sprinting because it's so short. Like there's no reason you can't do it. And kind of my rule of thumb is half it, right? So half your target pace. So again, if our target pace is 40-minute 5 mile, that broke it down to a 2-minute quarter mile, I half that. So I want to be able to do my quarter mile in 1 minute. That's kind of like the goal I've established for myself. It seems to work pretty good. It's a really good pace for me for pushing. Now sprinting days, like these hard sprinting days, they should be pretty demanding. Like you finish your sprint and you're gassed. You can't really breathe. Now if you remember back to the pace, I said you don't want to talk through it, but you don't want to like push yourself to the breaking point. The sprint day is like you want to push yourself to the breaking point. This is like where you're like, you finish every sprint and it takes you time to recover. So we're going to give you 60 seconds between sprints, right? Up to the peak. And then at the peak, you take 3 minutes, recover a little bit, and then you start walking your way back down. So we already talked like when you kind of get started, you want to do like 100, another 100, then 200, 200, then a 400, and then 200, 100. And that would be a pretty good sprint session. You should be pretty smoked after all that. As you kind of get a little more cardiovascular strength and you can start to sprint, and it's always going to be a struggle because you're just going to get faster. So you're able to push yourself harder. So it's always going to hurt. You just kind of got to use some self-judgment and figure out like, when do you think you can start to step the distances up? Because we want to get to be a little more, right? We want to get to the point where you're sprinting, like your workout should be like 4 200s roughly, and then 3, 4, 2 to 3, 4, somewhere in there, 400s, and then I like to sprinkle in an 800. Now that's a half mile. I mean, maybe like super Olympic level crazy fitness athletes can sprint for a half mile, but your average Joe isn't sprinting a half mile. Like that's, so kind of what that looks like for me is when I did that 800-meter sprint, which is, like I said, that was like where I wanted to get. I wanted to be able to do an 800-meter sprint in my workout. So I was doing like 4 200s. I think I was doing 2 400s. I did an 800, and then I took like a 5-minute break. And then I think I did the same thing. I think I did 2 400s and then 4 200s. And that was kind of like at the peak of my running. Now the 800, so again, that's a long distance. So if we use the target pace that we've already established, that 40-minute 5 mile, that breaks down to a 4-minute half mile, right? So 4-minute half mile. And then I said earlier, like for sprinting paces, you should half that. 2-minute half mile is like Olympic level, and most people can't sustain that pace. Like that, it's pretty wild to think that someone could sustain a 2-minute half mile. I can't do it. Maybe you can. I hope you, if you can do it, good on you, man. I'm rooting for you. I can't do it. So, what I will say is this: don't half this one. You know, the 800, don't half it. Maybe just like use your best judgment and shave some off. So we'll use the 8-minute mile pace. That's a 4-minute half mile. I would probably shoot for like a 3:30 half mile, right? That's clipping a whole minute off of your run time. So that's going from an 8 to a 7. It's not superhuman like shaving time, but it's enough that you're going to feel it. And again, your metric is like you want to be pushing yourself to where it's like physically demanding at the end of it, right? So, okay, that's our sprint day. And then, you know, we're going to have like a day or two in between. I always like to do Saturdays and Sundays for my long run day, which is the last day is your long run day, right? I like to do Saturdays and Sundays because I have more time, and it's kind of like an active recovery. Like you're not pushing yourself that hard. So a longer run is kind of like an active recovery. It works best for me to do it on the weekends, whatever works for you. But anyhow, so this is going to be like that long run day. And again, I already said pace is everything. This is no different. So when I say long run, I mean like ideally you're running double, like 1.5 to double what your goal run is. So in this instance, 5 miles, your long run day should be between 7.5 to 10 miles, right? So 1.5 the distance to double the distance. 7.5 to 10 miles should be your long run day. And your pace is like significantly slower, right? So for me, my pace, we'll just use, I wanted to run an 8-minute 5 mile. I went to a 9-minute, like 10 mile. So adding a minute, and that worked for me. Now this is going to be largely based on you and your fitness level right now. So we talked to metrics before, right? Where the pacing was, you can't breathe, like you can't talk. When I say you can't breathe, you shouldn't be able to breathe exclusively out of your nose on the pace day. You'll have some nose breathing with a little bit of mouth breathing. On the sprint day, you're probably just going to be breathing out of your mouth because you're gassed and you're dying. Now, on the long run day, aim to not breathe out of your mouth at all, only out of your nose. That's like a good metric for like judging your pace. Are you too fast or too slow? If you're finding yourself that you have to breathe out of your mouth while you're running, you're probably running a little too fast. Another good metric is, could I have a conversation right now? Like if somebody was next to me, could I have a conversation? Now it's not going to be like a super fluent conversation because you're running. So it would sound like, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. You know, like you're breathing, but you're able to talk. You know, you're not running to the point where you're like unable to speak. So, that's kind of what it should look like for your long run day. So set a pace that's more than your target pace. Try to run 1.5 to 2 times. And that's what works for me. So that's kind of how I would get better at the 5 mile. If you're still with me, 19 minutes in, this is getting to be kind of a long video. I want to talk a little bit about what the 5 mile, sorry, I had a like aneurysm there for a second. It's because it's like 4 o'clock in the morning and I didn't sleep much last night. So anyhow, you don't care. So the 5 mile run at Ranger School, it's 2.5 out, 2.5 back. It's honestly, it's not that bad of a course. If I'm being completely honest, it's pretty flat, some rolling hills, but nothing to worry about. And then one more thing to like keep in mind, your adrenaline's going to be up. Yeah, you're going to be a little tired. Typically at Ranger School, they don't mess with you too much until after the PT test, which as I record this, they're like in the process of rolling out a new PT test. So this video is probably going to be obsolete in the next year or so. And I'll just have to go out and do the new Ranger test and kind of figure out that. And then maybe I can get some videos up of like what helps me and for that. But yeah, they're currently rolling out the RPA 2.0. I haven't tested it. It's not official yet, so I don't think it does any good. I would prepare for just taking the RPA right now. So one thing is like, remember, like when you go to take that RPA, your adrenaline's going to be surging. So you're probably going to run a little faster than you normally do. And that's okay. I will caution you, don't run too fast. Like once you get good at running and you figure out your paces, don't push the pace, man. Like when you get to Ranger School, it doesn't pay to like be the first one in. Just be less than 40 minutes. That's all that you need to do. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Anyways, this video is 21 minutes long already, so I'm going to let you guys go. Comment and make a comment if there's anything you guys want to see. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.